I've always enjoyed long drives. There's something peaceful about being alone on the road, especially in the deep stretches of Australia's outback. Endless miles of red earth, low shrubs, and open sky. But peace can turn into isolation very quickly out here. And isolation can play tricks on your mind. It was late autumn when I got the call. A delivery job, simple enough. Pick up a shipment in Alice Springs, drive it straight through to a small mining camp near Marble Bar. The pay was good, but it meant driving nearly 20 hours non-stop through some of the most remote desert roads in the country. Of course, I accepted. I've done trips like this before, but this one stayed with me. I started the journey around noon. The first stretch was smooth. A few scattered cars, the occasional roadhouse, but mostly nothing but flat, dusty plains. By sunset, the sky turned into a blood-red canvas. The kind of sunset you only see out here, where the land is endless and the silence is heavy. As darkness fell, the temperature dropped sharply. The radio signal faded into static. My phone had long since lost reception. It was just me, the hum of the engine, and the road stretching ahead like a narrow black ribbon. Hours passed. The moon was barely a sliver, hanging low in the sky. The headlights carved 2 tunnels of light through the darkness. Beyond that, only blackness. Then, around midnight, I noticed something unusual. In the distance, far ahead on the side of the road, I saw a light. Faint, flickering. At first, I thought it might be a campfire. Maybe some stranded traveler or one of the rare backpackers who brave these desolate parts. As I approached, the light dimmed. Then it vanished entirely. I slowed the truck but kept moving. I couldn't see anyone, no vehicles, no camp. Just emptiness. The spot where the light had been was now nothing but desert. I told myself it was probably a trick of the eyes. Fatigue. Maybe I had stared at the road too long. But somewhere inside, a cold weight started to settle in my chest. I shook it off and drove on. But about 20 minutes later, I saw it again. This time on the opposite side of the road. A single flickering light, a hovering low, then disappearing as I got closer. A nervous knot began to tighten in my stomach. I tried turning on the radio again. Nothing but static. I glanced at the clock. 12:41 a.m. The engine hummed steadily beneath me, but the air inside the cab felt heavier, as if the darkness outside was starting to seep in. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. Suddenly, I noticed movement. Not ahead, not to the sides, behind. In the rearview mirror, just for a second, I caught the glimpse of a shape. Tall, thin, motionless, standing in the center of the road behind me, directly in the path I had just driven. I blinked. It was gone. My hands were cold on the wheel. I exhaled, slow and shaky. I must be imagining things, I thought. Exhaustion can make you see things that aren't there. But the unease was growing. I kept driving, focusing on the rhythmic hum of the tires on the cracked asphalt. Miles rolled by. The world outside remained dead silent. Until there it was again. The light. Except this time it wasn't on the roadside. It was directly ahead. Faint, glowing softly in the middle of the lane like a small lantern. I eased off the accelerator. The closer I got, the more defined the glow became. It wasn't a fire. It wasn't a vehicle. It was hovering. A pale, bluish orb suspended just above the ground, pulsing gently. I brought the truck to a crawl, heart pounding, eyes fixed on the strange light. And then, just as quickly, it vanished. No sound, no movement, just gone. I sat there in the middle of the road, breathing heavily. And that's when I saw it again. Not the light, the figure, standing further ahead this time, barely visible in the beams of my headlights. It wasn't facing me. It stood sideways, its head turned unnaturally toward the truck, as if its neck had rotated too far. Long arms hung loosely at its sides. Even from this distance, I could tell something was wrong with its proportions. It didn't look human. Not fully. My chest tightened. I knew I should reverse, turn around, get out of there, but I didn't. Something held me there, frozen. And then it moved. It moved slowly. The figure didn't walk like a person. Its steps were stiff, almost mechanical. One leg shifted forward, then the other, as if it had to consciously remember how to move. Its head remained fixed on me, its pale face just barely catching the edge of my headlights. I sat frozen in the cab, hands clamped tightly to the wheel. A cold sweat trickled down my spine. The engine idled softly, as if afraid to make too much noise. The figure took another step forward, and then another. It was closing the distance. I slammed the truck into reverse and backed up, quickly, but not recklessly. The figure paused for a moment, as if watching, analyzing, and then it vanished again. One moment it was there halfway down the road. The next it was gone. The headlights illuminated only empty asphalt and the creeping mist that had begun to roll in from the desert floor. I stopped reversing. The silence pressed against the windows like heavy air. My breathing was shallow. Every instinct screamed for me to turn around and drive as far away from here as possible. But I didn't. I don't know why. Curiosity, fear, some strange pull that kept me tethered to that lonely stretch of road. I inched forward, headlights cutting through the fog. The mist was thick now, too thick. The world outside the beams of light had dissolved into a wall of gray. And then my radio clicked on. Static. No voices. No music. Just a sharp, hissing static, crackling like distant whispers trying to form words. Stay. Leave. I reached for the dial, but the knob wouldn't budge. The static grew louder, more distorted. The hissing seemed to pulse in rhythm with my heartbeat. Then silence. Dead silence. The headlights flickered. The truck sputtered for a moment, like something was pulling power from the battery. And then I heard it. A knock. Not on the door. Not on the window. On the roof. A single, deliberate knock, like a hand gently tapping from above. I stared upward instinctively, even though the metal roof offered no view. The knock came again, and then a soft scraping noise, like nails dragging lightly across the metal surface. The temperature inside the cab plummeted. My breath fogged the air. I tried starting the truck again. The engine groaned, then sputtered back to life. Without hesitation, I pressed the gas and accelerated down the road. The tires spun briefly on the sand-dusted asphalt, then found traction. I sped through the fog, heart racing. For a few blessed moments, nothing happened. Just the hum of the engine and the dense, impenetrable mist rushing past the windows. But the calm didn't last. In the mirror, I saw it again. Not far behind, a dark silhouette, following the truck, moving impossibly fast. Gliding rather than running. I pushed the accelerator harder. The speedometer crept past 100 kilometers per hour. 110. The fog began to thin, revealing stretches of twisted gum trees lining both sides of the road. And then, the road ended. Suddenly, without warning, the asphalt dissolved into dirt, then into soft, uneven sand. I slammed on the brakes. The truck skidded, tires fighting for grip, fishtailing slightly before coming to a stop. I sat there, panting, hands shaking. The fog had fully cleared now, but what lay ahead was even worse. I had reached the edge of a dry riverbed. Beyond it, nothing but jagged rocks and a steep drop. There was no road forward, and behind me, the figure stood, not close, but not far. His body was unnaturally still, its face white, featureless, save for two dark, hollow eyes that seemed to absorb every ounce of light. Couldn't see its mouth, or perhaps it didn't have one. The air around it shimmered slightly, like heat rising off desert sand. It was watching me, not attacking, not moving, just watching. The Watcher. I whispered the name to myself before I even realized I had said it aloud. The Watcher. At that moment, my headlights flickered again, and the figure took a single step forward. The figure took another step. It was slow, deliberate, as if it wanted me to feel every moment of its approach. I couldn't take my eyes off it. The emptiness of its face. The way its hollow eyes seemed to reach inside my mind. Like it wasn't just watching me, it was reading me. The headlights flickered again. For a split second, the entire world seemed to pulse, as if time had stuttered. The sound of the engine dulled. The night air grew heavier, and then something truly unsettling happened. I glanced at the dashboard clock. 12:41 a.m. The same time I had seen over an hour ago. That wasn't right. I shook my head and checked the odometer. The kilometers hadn't changed either. I had driven for miles. I had accelerated, turned, skidded, and yet it was as if I hadn't moved at all. The loop, a cold realization settled in. I wasn't driving forward anymore. I was trapped, circling inside some broken pocket of time and space. The watcher took another step, closer now. It was no longer far in the distance. I could see more of its form. Its arms were too long, its neck slightly tilted at an unnatural angle. Its fingers thin, almost skeletal. The air around it pulsed faintly, like waves of distortion. It didn't belong here, or maybe I didn't. I forced my focus back to the truck. If I was trapped in a loop, I had to break it. I slammed the truck into reverse, tires spinning violently in the sand. Dust kicked up behind me as I pulled back onto the road. But after only a few seconds, the headlights revealed it again. Another curve, another flickering blue light, the exact same spot where I'd seen the strange floating orb earlier. My stomach twisted. I was back at the same point. Again, the truck's radio crackled. A faint voice, like it was buried under layers of static. "Turn around." The voice repeated softly, almost pleading. "You're not supposed to be here." I pressed both hands hard against the steering wheel, my pulse hammering in my ears. "I'm trying," I whispered. "I've been trying." But it didn't matter. The road, or whatever this place was, wouldn't let me go. And the watcher was still behind me. The headlights caught it again, standing just a little closer. Its head tilted further now, as if curious, studying my desperation. The fog began creeping back in, rolling like ghostly tendrils across the road. The air grew cold again. Knock! Another soft knock came from the roof. I clenched my jaw. The knocks grew louder, slow, deliberate taps, as though something above was drumming with its fingers. Knock! Knock! I couldn't take it anymore. I shifted into drive and floored the gas. The truck lurched forward, cutting blindly into the fog, tires kicking sand as the narrow road twisted and curved unpredictably ahead. For minutes or maybe hours I drove. The world outside never changed. The same curves, the same gum trees, the same haunting glow of that blue orb that kept appearing ahead of me, like a marker I couldn't pass. And always the watcher remained, sometimes behind me, sometimes beside me. At one point, I even glimpsed it standing in the middle of the road directly ahead, forcing me to swerve wildly just to avoid plowing into it. The truck skidded sideways, nearly tipping, but somehow remained upright. The loop continued, endless, hopeless. I don't know how long I stayed trapped like that. At some point, I lost sense of time entirely. My eyelids grew heavy, my mind fogged, slipping between exhaustion and panic. But then, through the fog, the faint, flickering yellow light. It wasn't the blue orb this time. It was different, warm, steady, like the glow of a lantern. I slowed down, instinctively drawn toward it. As I got closer, I saw a structure emerge from the mist. A small cabin, wooden, weathered, perched awkwardly on the edge of the desert, surrounded by nothing. A figure stood at the door, an old man holding a lantern, staring directly at me. The truck came to a gentle stop in front of the cabin. I sat motionless, staring at the old man standing beneath the soft lantern glow. He didn't move, didn't wave me in. He simply waited. The world around us was utterly still. I hesitated, hand gripping the door handle tightly, unsure if stepping out was the right thing to do, or exactly what it wanted me to do. But I stepped out anyway. The air was colder here, still, thick with something I couldn't explain, like the very atmosphere pulsed faintly with energy I wasn't supposed to feel. As I approached the man, he spoke. "You've been driving in circles," he said softly. "You were never meant to take this road." His voice was raspy, old, but calm, as if he'd seen many like me before. What is this place?" I finally managed to ask. He lowered his eyes, as if weighing whether to answer. "It's not a place," he whispered. "It's a pocket, a loop, a wound in the world." I shivered. "And him?" I asked, barely able to voice the question. "The Watcher." The old man looked up at me with tired eyes. "He guards the wound, keeps what's trapped inside." My stomach turned. "Why me?" I whispered. "I was just driving." The old man exhaled slowly. "Most people don't see the cracks, but some do, usually by accident. You strayed too close, and once you see him—" He paused, his voice lowering. "He sees you." A cold wind swirled suddenly around us. The lantern flickered. In the distance, through the thinning fog, I saw it again. The Watcher, standing silently beneath a lone, twisted tree, his head tilted slightly, his hollow eyes fixed directly on me. I swallowed hard. "Is there a way out?" I asked. The old man nodded slowly. "Perhaps, but not everyone makes it." The lantern's light grew dimmer. "You've looked at him 3 times, haven't you?" I froze. My lips trembled. "Yes." He nodded again, as if confirming something inevitable. "Then your thread is thin, but not yet broken." He gestured to the edge of the cabin where a narrow dirt path led away from the main road, snaking into the darkness beyond. "Drive that way," he said, "and whatever you do, don't stop. Don't look back." The air grew heavier again. The Watcher stepped forward, still distant, but closer than before. "You have one chance," the old man whispered. "Leave before he crosses the 4th time." Without another word, I ran back to the truck. The engine roared to life. I turned onto the narrow path and pressed hard on the accelerator. The headlights cut through the dense, twisting darkness. The world outside blurred into shapes I couldn't recognize. Behind me, I felt the presence looming. I didn't dare check the mirrors. The old man's words echoed in my mind. "Don't look back." The path grew narrower, winding like a snake. My heartbeat pounded louder than the engine itself. And then, suddenly, the road opened. The stars returned above me. The air thinned. The weight on my chest lifted. The Watcher was gone. I drove until the first light of dawn broke the horizon. Until I found real asphalt beneath my tires again. Until I saw a highway sign pointing back toward Marble Bar. The loop had broken, or at least, it had let me go. I never told anyone. Not the company, not my friends, not even my family. But sometimes late at night I still feel it. The weight of those hollow eyes, the cold breath on my neck. And every now and then, I catch glimpses of something in my rearview mirror that wasn't there a moment before. Faint shadow, pale face, always watching. If you ever drive through the Outback, and you see him once, turn around. If you see him twice, pray. And if you see him 3 times, it may already be too late.